Hi everyone, my name's Jenny and I have multiple sclerosis. I thought that it would be useful to kind of start a YouTube channel because although I've already got a blog, which I'll link below, I'm about to start some new treatment. So I thought for me, it would be helpful to record my thoughts and feelings at a time when I maybe don't feel like blogging about them, or also for others as well, because I know that when I've started looking up about this treatment and finding some real life scenarios, actually they're very few and far between. There are a few, and it's been so helpful to watch those, but I hope I can help others by recording what's going to happen to me, and also hopefully it will make sense of everything that's happening to me as well, because it's quite a big thing. I'll just let you know what treatment it is. It's called HSCT. That stands for, I need to double check my things, I wrote it down, hematopoietic stem cell transplantation. So it's basically a chemo-based treatment about rebooting your immune system. So I'll be starting that in the next couple of weeks, and I thought I'd record some videos to help others see what's happening. But first of all, I thought it might be useful to have a chat with you just about my MS and give you a little bit of background about me and my MS. So I'm now 40 and I was diagnosed when I was 15 years old. I had first symptoms from about 13. So my initial symptom was optic neuritis, which I think is very common in people with MS. But the when I got diagnosed at 15, I had a problem with my legs, and with my dad being a GP, I think he probably thought, oh, I know what's happening here, and he kind of pushed for me to be seeing someone quite quickly, and I was diagnosed quite quickly, so that was good. My MS started out as relapsing remitting type, although having said that, my relapses were actually very few and far between. I didn't really have any other symptoms apart from when I had a relapse. The relapse would maybe affect me for 2 or 3 weeks and then get completely better again. So the kind of relapses that I had were things like a numb leg or a numb arm or optic neuritis again, or on one occasion I did have problems with my waterworks. I retained urine, but again that kind of resolved itself quite quickly. So that was okay. And then I went through 8 years without a relapse. Managed to get through uni and marriage and all that kind of stuff with very few relapses. So I never had any kind of symptoms really, apart from when I was having the relapses. I wasn't overly tired. I didn't have fatigue like I do now. I had a relapse when I was 27, just before I got married. It was optic neuritis again. And then I went and had nothing. I had nothing until just this year. But although I didn't have relapses, I did start noticing my mobility getting worse. And also my other symptoms as well. New symptoms started as things like fatigue and heat intolerance that it didn't really affect me in the past. So I kind of knew something had changed. And I said to my neurologist, something is different. I tried to go for a run and I couldn't lift my leg properly. And when I mentioned it to the neurologist, they were like, oh, well, this is just a symptom of MS. Your body heats up and it... But I knew that wasn't the case. I knew I could feel my body was different. I hadn't had a problem with running in the past, but this time I did. So gave it a little while, had kids, it was, fine, but I just found it harder and harder, for example, to take my little boy to school. I was dragging my left leg. I suddenly had to do less exertion in order to have more of an impact. So whereas before it started when I was running, then it started happening when I was walking or when I was swimming or just any kind of exertion. It would come on really quickly, and most importantly, it would stay for quite a while. And eventually it kind of just seemed to be there permanently. So it was only last year that I was diagnosed as having secondary progressive MS, but I've actually had mobility problems for the past 6.5, 7 years in that time. So I knew something was different, but it obviously takes time for them to be able to say, okay, yes, something has changed, and yes, it is secondary progressive. I actually asked for a second opinion from a different neurologist because I kind of felt that it was important for me to feel like I was being heard, because my first one was kind of not denying it, but he wouldn't give it a label. He said it's really important that we can keep treating you as relapsing remitting, even though I wasn't having relapses. But I did have a relapse earlier this year. As I said, I was going through a really stressful period at work, and I had a bit of right side of my face numbness. That resolved itself in about a week. So I had an MRI. I had an MRI with my new neurologist, and although he has diagnosed me as secondary progressive, the MRI, and actually I had two over the course of 6 months, showed very clear current inflammation as well. So although I'm secondary progressive, I'm also getting new inflammation. So that's a bit annoying because I'm already disabled. I don't want this new inflammation to lead to even further disability and further problems. And luckily he's involved in this HSCT treatment. He's involved in the research, but actually there is, although the plan was to do some research on people with secondary progressive MS who are having inflammation, the approval hasn't gone through yet. So he's actually treating me on a compassionate basis, which is great. But it's a big thing. It's chemo based. I'll be losing my hair. I'll be in isolation away from my family. So it's a big thing. And I thought it'd be useful for me to record this so that I can kind of keep track of myself and hopefully help others. And yeah, just, kind of extend my blog when I don't feel like writing. So do it on YouTube instead. I hope it'll be useful. Fingers crossed it will. So that's just a little bit about me, first of all, but do look out for any updates. I can't guarantee that I will be uploading every day or, every few days or anything, but I aim to be uploading when anything significant happens or if there's a big thing or change or I need to record anything. So keep your eye out, but thank you for listening and take care.